Hello everybody, assalamu alaikum. Okay, okay, let's continue with our topic, price elasticity of demand. Okay, so what is elastic? Um, so when you are using your t-shirt or your um, sweater or your jacket, over there you've seen elastic, right? So elastic is something that is stretchable, right? When you are using force, you're seeing that length is increasing. Okay, that means it's responding. Okay, so the goods that respond to your force, it's elastic, right? And think about another thing, maybe your chair, mm, your wooden chair, or your metal chair. Okay, if we do the same thing to the chair, you'll notice that yeah, it's not responding. Okay, so that means these are inelastic. Okay, so that's physics, right? But when this concept is used in economics, it's like this, that instead of force, we are changing price. Okay, so whenever we are changing price, will there be any change in demand, or what will be the response? Okay, so that's all about price elasticity of demand. Okay, so see what's happening here, that whenever we are changing price, what's happening, what is the response from the demand? Okay, so that's price elasticity of demand. See that price elasticity of demand means the responsiveness of demand due to change in price. In other words, if the price change, the demand will also change. This change is shown by the elasticity of demand. Okay, so if there is high change in or high response, then there will be it will be known as elastic demand. And if there is a low mm, response, then it will be considered as an um, inelastic demand. Okay, so see, we have both of the example over here. See that in the first picture, this is inelastic demand. Okay, and the second one is elastic demand. So see the inelastic one, this demand curve is almost vertical, or very close to vertical, and this one is very close to horizontal. Okay, so see that as the price rises from P1 to P2, see the price is rising from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded falls by a smaller proportion from Q1 to Q2. So see, this is the change in price, but see the change in quantity demanded is comparatively low, right? So example of this kind of thing are like salt, alcohol, electricity, cigarettes, and nail clippers. Okay, so what they're saying, trying to say is like these are like necessary items or addictive items, habitual items. Okay, so for them, even if the price changes, we tend to buy almost the same amount of goods. Okay, and let's talk about elastic demand. Say that as the price drops from P1 to P2, the quantity demand rises by a greater proportion from Q1 to Q2. See, the same change in price compared to this previous graph, but see the response, there is a huge response from the quantity demanded. So that means that the demand is rising uh, in large quantity. Okay, so see some of the examples are like with high PED are chocolate bars, soft drinks, cars, and airline travel. So see, these are like luxury items, right? So if the price falls, we tend to buy a lot more. But if the price rises, we can still live without it. So we decide to buy them later on. Okay? So that's the difference. Mm, okay, so see, so there are like you'll find these five different type of elasticity. I see. So like when it's price inelastic, okay. Like we already talked about inelastic and elastic. So see that in inelastic demand curve, the value of PED will be above zero but below one, and for elastic it's above one. Okay. Uh, So see what's happening over here. Let's draw them. Like for price inelastic, the graph can be like this: a total horizontal line. Sorry, a vertical line. Okay. So see, even if you change the price, it will still remain the same. Okay. See, the price is falling, but zero response. Okay. It's all the same. Okay, and for inelastic, we already discussed it's almost vertical. Okay, it's something like this. Okay. So see, if you change the price, and a very small amount of change will be there. It's insignificant change. Okay, and unitary elastic. Unitary elastic is like a it will be like a 45-degree change. Okay. Like see, it's like something like this. Okay, so over there, see, there will be a same amount of change in the demand. Okay, so almost same kind of change in the demand. Okay, and for elastic, see, it will be an almost horizontal line. Almost horizontal, right? So see, if you change the same amount, uh, oops, see, huge response. Okay, we already talked about it. And for perfectly elastic, it will be like a horizontal, a total horizontal line. So let's draw it here. So a horizontal line will be like this. Like there will be unlimited response. Okay, the quantity can be anywhere. Now for a change in price, it can be anywhere. Okay. So that's the different kind of yeah, graph. Okay, there. For perfectly inelastic, there will be zero response. And for inelastic, there will be very low response. And for unitary elastic, there will be same response. For elastic, there will be huge response. And for perfectly elastic, there will be infinite response. Okay, so it's like this. It's gradually increasing, right? Okay. So if you go through all the definition, it's the definition is basically what we just discussed. If price changes by 1 unit, demand will change by 0 unit. Okay, so there is no change when there are perfectly inelastic demand. And for inelastic demand, if price changes by 1 unit, and demand will change by less than 1 unit. Okay, so this is inelastic demand. And for a unitary elastic, if price changes by 1 unit, the demand will also change by 1 unit. Okay, so it's like the same proportion. And for elastic demand, if price changes by 1 unit, the demand will change by more than 1 unit. Okay, and for perfectly elastic demand, if price changes by 1 unit, the demand will change infinitely. Okay, so it's like unlimited change will be there. Okay, okay, so that's it. So you already noticed that steeper the curve, more inelastic the demand curve will be. Okay, like closer to the vertical, mm, it will be more inelastic. So here's the yeah, equation or formula for PED. See, percentage change in quantity demand divided by percentage change in price. Okay, so see that that's a formula for PD. So yeah, you may get some yeah, uh, math from there. Okay. So let's do a small math from here. Um, let's give some value over here. From that we can do the calculation. Okay. So suppose the price was $5 and it increased to $10. And because of this, the demand response was like this: from 100 it reduced to um, 95. Okay, so that's the situation over here. Okay, now if you put it to the formula, it will be something like this. Let's write the formula first. So PED is equals to what? Percentage change in quantity demand divided by percentage change in price. Okay, so we can write it like this: Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q1 multiply by 100. Then P2 minus P1 divided by P1 multiply by 100. Okay, so we can break down the formula like this. And the above part is percentage change in quantity demanded, and the lower part is percentage change in price. Okay, so Q2 means new quantity and Q1 means old quantity. Okay, so see what's the new and old quantity over here. So a new quantity is 95 minus 100 divided by 100, and here we have 10 minus 5 divided by 5, okay, and this multiply by 100 is cancelling each other out, so I'm not writing that. Okay, so what's the answer? Let's calculate. Mm, so 95 minus 100 is how much? Minus 5, right? Then divided by 100, we have minus 0.5. Okay, then mm, divided by in the lower part how much it will be. 10 minus 5, that is 5. 5 divided by 5, 1. Okay, so basically this is the answer. Minus 0.05. Okay, so that's the answer for PED. Okay, so notice one thing, that the answer of PEDs will be always minus. Okay, and this minus represents the negative relationship or inverse relationship between price and demand. Okay, so it does not represent elastic or inelastic. PED will be always minus. Okay, and what represents inelasticity? And this part. Okay, that means the value. If the value is less than 1, that means it's inelastic. Okay, so see the value over here is less than 1. Okay, the point is 0.5. Okay, so it's less than 1, so it will be inelastic. And if the value was more than 1, then it will be elastic. Okay, so in this case it's you can see it's less than 1, so it's inelastic, right? Okay, and see this from this graph you can also say that this is inelastic, and from this value you can also say this is inelastic. Okay? So there's a different method by which you can identify whether your graph or your product is elastic or inelastic. Okay, so let me know if you're facing any problem. This is a very important topic. Definitely you'll get question from this part. This chapter is very important. Okay. So next part is also very important. That's factor affecting price elasticity of demand. Okay, so when we'll discuss these factors, okay, be careful. We're talking about price elasticity of demand. Okay, but many people confuse it with factors affecting demand. Okay, it seems very similar, but it's not same. Okay, these demand factors and price elasticity of demand factors are totally different. Okay, the demand factor means like the factors which leads to increase or decrease in demand. Yeah, but factors of that affects price elasticity of demand. This means like whether this response is high or low. Okay, this will be recorded over in here. Like these are the factors over here that we'll discuss. That means that whether the demand will increase or decrease. Okay. So see, so the first one is availability of substitutes. Okay. So if substitutes are available, then what will happen? It will be elastic. Okay. And if there is no substitute or less substitute, then it will be inelastic. Okay. So think about Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Okay, so these are substitutes. So as they have substitutes, then maybe tea and coffee. These are also substitutes, right? So if substitutes are available, then it will be elastic. But think about a product which does not have a substitute. So for them, it will be inelastic. Okay, so that means that even if the price increases, your people will not reduce the consumption or demand. They will continue to purchase. And think about the product. For example, your favorite brand of your pizza. Okay. So even if you're addicted to it, or maybe habituated to it, or you're a great fan of it, so what will happen? You'll buy them even if the price rises. You won't switch to other brands. Okay. The degree of necessity. So if the product is necessary, then it will be inelastic, and if it's luxury, then it will be elastic. Okay, so we already discussed when we discussed about the graph that we found that when these graphs are like this, that where your graph is like this, mm, elastic diagram, we found that with the chocolate bar and other luxurious items like air ticket and cars, those will be considered as an elastic goods because they will have their luxury, and when the price reduces, we tend to buy more. But think about necessary items like necessary foods, clothing, rice, potato, these basic things. And so for them, whenever the price reduces or increases, there's not much effect. We tend to buy almost the same amount of goods and services. Okay. Okay. Next, we have proportion of income spent on a product. See that uh, elastic and inelastic. When will be this? When you are spending a huge amount. See the products on which the maximum amount of income is spent. Okay, in these cases there will be elastic, and if there is a very low amount spent in a product, okay, so for them it will be inelastic. Okay, like think about rent. Okay. If you notice that how much we are spending on rent, you'll find in most of the cases almost most half or more than half of the income of a family went to are spent as rent. But think about a small item, suppose a pen maybe. For a pen, maybe a very small portion of the income is spent for pen. Okay, so if you compare them, so for rent, if the price of rent increases, we will look for alternative because it will make our life difficult. It's because it's taking a huge proportion of our income. But for if the price of pen rises, we might not bother much because it's we are not spending too much money on that. Okay, so it won't be a big problem. Okay, next we have time period. So time period, see that in the short run they will be inelastic, and in the long run it will be elastic. Okay, so see that um, for a product, you'll find that if the demand in the short run will have a very yeah, the demand will be inelastic. Why? Because think about a product like you went to the shop and you are finding that the price have increased. So instantly you may not switch to another brand. In the short run, you may continue to buy them or buy the same amount, but in the long run, you may find an alternative and switch to that. Okay, but in the short run, we tend to stick with it. Okay, because we are doubtful about the other brands. Okay, so if you consider a time period, in the short run it will be inelastic, and in the long run it will be elastic. Okay, so that's all from this chapter. Okay, so say that so this is a very important chapter. Go through this chapter. If you're facing any problem, please let me know. Okay. Okay. Okay, then that's all for today. See you in the next lesson, inshallah. Okay, thank you, everybody.